All right, so that was CTV's Omar Sachedina. Let's get some more reaction now. Dan Kelly, the CEO of the CFIB, joining us. And Dan, you heard from some of the different small business owners and their reaction to Ontario's plan. What was the general consensus among your membership?
Well, look, it is good news that we're starting to talk about reopening. That in and of itself, as one of the business owners said, does provide some reason for encouragement, some light at the end of the tunnel. At the same time, it was quite tentative and small. No one in the business community, certainly not my organization, is lobbying government to go wide open tomorrow or even next week or next month. What we are saying, though, is that we would like to have some opportunity to plan of what that's going to look like. So even if you can't give us a date, tell us now what kinds of things you think medical officers of health think might be critical for us to have in a business to allow it to open so that we have the time to get those things in order. So do we need protective shields between the customer and the clerk? Do we need to have somebody to make sure that we limit numbers of people into a business at any given time? Those are the kinds of things we would say. On top of it, I am getting an increasing number of business owners that are saying, look, if I can go to if a customer can go to Walmart or to Home Depot, Walmart or Costco and buy a garden hose or a pair of gloves, and yet my little 1,000-square-foot business is mandated to close, that's starting to feel really unfair. People got it during the emergency phase, during if this was going to be a few weeks, but if this is now 2 or 3 months of this, we've got to make sure that we allow the smallest of businesses to have a little bit of a heartbeat of business to come in to keep them going.
We're likely going to continue to hear not just from the provinces, but the federal government. Yesterday, when the Prime Minister was doing his daily address, he was shedding a little bit of light on the conversations they're having behind closed doors. I guess we're still waiting for, the guidelines that, as the Prime Minister put it, that are going to be shared on that roadmap towards reopening. Does that create confusion that you hear certain things from the federal government and certain things from the provincial government when it comes to those small timeline things that businesses are wondering about?
Look, I think most business owners are paying attention to everybody, both the federal government, the provincial governments, and of course their municipal governments or local regions. We need to make sure that, given that the experience with COVID isn't the same right across Canada, that we have the ability for businesses to be able to open based on what's happening in those local communities. This is a giant country. We see different rules in Europe with countries that are much smaller than most Canadian provinces. So it seems to make sense to me that we would have differentiated rules, not just between provinces, but even within a province. And that's something I'm hoping that we will see as we develop these plans in the future. Look, it's good news that we've taken the first step towards recovery plans. But business owners really do want to see more time, some time put in so that to allow them to prepare to buy whatever protective equipment they might need. And of course, a bit of a pathway to have some economic activity. Ontario, for example, doesn't even allow curbside pickup for most retailers, only a few select ones. Meanwhile, British Columbia and many other provinces have allowed that through the entire pandemic.
I want to talk about rents as well, Dan, because obviously there's been so much focus on the rent relaxation rules, but the tensions as well between landlords and tenants as we get to the end, basically, of the month of April and people start thinking about May rent. We only have about 30 seconds or so, but what's been your overall observation so far from your members on what the federal government rolled out?
Well, the feds with the provinces put in place the new rent subsidy. It is a substantive one, so 75% of your rent can be covered. Two major concerns. One, you have to have had your revenues drop by 70%. And secondly, you're entirely dependent as a business on your landlord wishing to take up this program. The early evidence is suggesting that a lot of landlords are just taking a pass on this program altogether. And as a result of that, the small business tenant is going to be expected to pay 100% of the rent cost. That's a big worry. It hasn't provided the relief that we were hoping, albeit a good start.